Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, here quarantining with COVID. I want to thank you so much for not leaving here in my quarantine by myself. Good to know that you could spend time with me and I could spend time with you unmasked. Anyway, we're in Titus. We're in chapter 3, and we're going to read chapter 3, verses 8 through 11 today, which is really the end of the body of the letter. Um, Paul begins his Timothy correspondence in Timothy chapter 1, 1 Timothy chapter 1, by telling Timothy this: insist that the men stop arguing about things they know nothing about and chasing down rabbit holes and talking about genealogies and prophecies and things that they don't understand to begin with. And so don't you let that happen. And he repeats that over and over again to keep people focused. And he ends Titus's letter by telling him the same thing. Don't let people, just chase down rabbit holes. Um, I have to apologize, I guess, uh, for my lack of patience when it comes to these kinds of controversies. I remember when Dan Brown's book, The Da Vinci Code, came out, and I didn't think much about it because it's a work of fiction, and then a lot of Christian people got worked up about it, and I wrote a bulletin article about it, and then I was asked to say something about it from the pulpit, and so I went and got it out of the library. Not an easy feat at the time. Went and got it out of the library, got up, showed the book, and then I turned to the spine and I put it to the F, and I said, "This is fiction." That's what I want to say about that. Um, and then I wrote a bulletin article about it. And my wife found an article that a friend of ours, who's also a preacher, had written. It was such a wonderful article. And she kind of handed it to me and said, "This is how you should have done this." He said everything that you said, but he was nice about it. And I said, "But mine has a subtext. And my subtext is, why do you guys keep getting worked up about dumb stuff like this?" Um, yeah, I apologize for my lack of patience for extraneous controversies. But I do feel like Paul today is giving me um, at least a little bit of patience for my lack of patience with these kinds of things. Okay, let's read verse 8. The saying is trustworthy, and I want you to insist on these things, meaning what he's just said about behavior, and particularly the theology behind all right behavior, so that those who have believed in God may be careful to devote themselves to good works. There's that pursuing good works, eager for good works. He's repeated that phrase over and over again. These things are excellent and profitable for people, but avoid foolish controversies, genealogies, dissensions, and quarrels about the law, for they are unprofitable and worthless. As for a person who stirs up division, after warning him once and then twice, having nothing more to do with him, knowing that such a person is warped and sinful, he is self-condemned. And that's the end of the body of the letter. And those are strong words. And I understand that when a silly question pops up and people get worked up about it, our impulse is to do some research and write a 40-page paper and then maybe set up a debate and make sure the truth will win. If something is dumb, it is dumb. And giving it time and space is a way of elevating it and dignifying it. You answer every question with the Word of God, but you do not let yourself get entangled. You do not in any way jump into that briar patch and get tangled up in those briars, thinking that you're going to come out without getting cut, because you can't. And that's what he's telling to Timothy and to Titus, and that's what he's telling to me. Do not let yourself get sucked in to these kinds of things, and you prevent Christians from allowing themselves to be sucked up into them. And when someone is, and they won't come out, at some point you've got to cut them loose, or they're just going to drag you down with them. He says, So a person who's stirring up division after warning him once and then twice, have nothing more to do with him. This is not punitive. This is about preventing the disease from spreading, and for silly season to continue in the church, knowing that such a person is warped and sinful and is self-condemned. He's not telling us to give up on loving anyone or praying for anyone, but there's a point at which we're not going to be able to change someone. Only God will need to work on them. And we're ill-equipped to do it from now on. So we leave them to the attentions of a loving God, and we keep the family healthy by removing the disease. That's what we do. And he's not in any way apologetic about that. That's what has to be done. And that's what he tells Titus to do without any modifications or explanations. He just says, do it, and puts a period at the end of that sentence and then says his goodbyes. Okay, we'll talk about those goodbyes next time. And then we're going to take a session to conclude our study and talk about some things that we noticed in Paul's letter to Titus. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.